What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of The Legislative Director, talking about legislative things, her enthusiasm for the Indiana General Assembly, myself, and the show is waning by the minute. Legislative Director Amber Marr, and with her, as always, still loving every minute of doing this, not the Legislative Director, Jason Thompson. Amber, how are you?
Good morning. I am good. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thanks for doing this. I know you're incredibly busy. There's a lot going on at the Indiana General Assembly as we approach the end of said session.
We can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Is that light an oncoming train?
Some days it feels like it. Yes.
Yeah. That's unfortunate, but I'm glad to hear that the end is near, if you will. What is happening right now with at the Indiana General Assembly? We'll just give. There's not a ton of updates to give folks today, but we want to at least touch base on a couple of things, as well as what is happening in the next couple of weeks in regards to the end of session.
Absolutely. I would say that just so that everyone is aware, we have, well, I guess not quite, but the House of Representatives, they had to have their committee reports in by Tuesday. So that was the 22nd. So no more committees can be happening in the House. And if you remember, the House is listening and working on Senate bills. So right now they are already starting conference committees and, trying to kind of clear the calendar because second reading and third reading deadlines are coming up. So in the House, we'll just stick with them right now. And I'll say the second reading deadline is Thursday, the 24th. And that's crazy because then third reading deadline is Monday, the 28th. And then we are racing to the end to try to get as much finalized, agreed upon, etc., as the conference committees will be flying around. As far as the Senate committee report deadline is Thursday, the 24th. And then their second reading deadline is Monday, the 28th. And then third reading deadline for the Senate is actually Tuesday, March 1st. And then conference committees for them. So the Senate deadlines are a little bit just like a day or two off from the House.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fun. That's always entertaining because that is when bills, die, other things, amendments happen, and all of that good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think that.
Well, let me rephrase that.
What amendments we're talking about?
Yeah, it's not all good stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of bad stuff that's happening that we're trying to prevent. So let's just touch. There's a couple of bills I think that you wanted to just touch base on because those are moving. There's other activities that are happening. We'll want to let people know, and then as we get past session is when we'll really give the in-depth rundown of what is passed, what did not, good, bad, etc. So what do you want to? What are the bills that you want to touch on first?
Well, can I back up really fast? I just wanted to make one more deadline comment.
Yeah.
I think in our discussion, either last time or the time before, we were talking about whether sine die was the 14th or the 15th. So I also just wanted to make sure that the end of session, both sides, Senate and House, so the entire General Assembly has to be done by March 14th. Okay. So I am guessing things will be done sooner, but I do not have a crystal ball. So stay tuned.
If I was a betting man, I wouldn't put money on it being done early, but that's just me.
Yeah, there's a lot to be accomplished in these final weeks, so I would agree.
Maybe they'll just get so frustrated with each other that they'll just be like, you know what, we're done.
I mean, that's always a possibility. So,
Once again, we'll see.
Okay, so sorry. let's go ahead and jump into a few quick bill updates. I wanted to start with some good news. So, House Bill 1306 is something that we have talked about. It's the Housing Task Force, and Representative Miller is the author. And I feel like my time frame is just not. I cannot remember when this happened, but it was at least last week, maybe finalized this week. I don't know. I'm losing track of time. But what is amazing is we have been working with Representative Miller. If you can remember, this task force had several individuals representing organizations that for example, included the builders, the realtors, the apartment association, Habitat for Humanity, bankers, Accelerate Indiana municipalities. And so just we had been sort of fighting or requesting, if you will, if there would be a way for him to include at least a consumer organization. So as we worked with him, he agreed that he would actually add an individual representing the Hoosier Housing Needs Coalition. And I just wanted to touch on that. So since AARP Indiana is actually a part of the steering committee for the Hoosier Housing Needs Coalition, so is CHIP, the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana, Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Indiana Community Action Poverty Institute, Prosperity Indiana, the Ross Foundation, et cetera, United Way. There's just a lot of organizations that are part of this. And so what Representative Miller did not want is to have to add all of those organizations and essentially create a task force that maybe couldn't get anything done because there were so many people on it, which we totally understood. And he allowed an amendment to go in the Senate on House Bill 1306 that actually included, like I said, an individual representing the Hoosier Housing Needs Coalition, as well as the Indiana Manufactured Housing Association. So we're very grateful. The bill is continuing to move. The committee report has already been adopted and it's up for seconds. So we did just want to thank him very, very much for working with us and allowing us to at least have one spot, even though now the Hoosier Housing Needs Coalition will have to determine who sits on there. But it's better than not having a spot. And we're just really excited to continue to move this conversation forward around housing and just other issues when it comes to housing here in the state of Indiana.
That's awesome. Well, it's good to hear that the representative was open to adding somebody from the coalition to it, because as you mentioned, there were a lot of folks that, while they are obviously interested in finding solutions to some of the housing problems that Indiana and really all states are having with regards to inventory and affordability, especially for folks that are older, as well as individuals that are in the workforce, younger individuals that are kind of just starting out in a career, that housing is a little sometimes out of their reach with regards to that. So trying to find that those solutions is an important task that this task force shall undertake. And good to know that there's going to be at least one person on that task force that can raise some of those issues that maybe are less of a priority for some of the other members.
Exactly.
Cool.
So
Good work.
that was very exciting, something to celebrate and something to look forward to in the interim, which we will be giving updates on maybe that housing task force, as depending on who is the person from the coalition that sits on there, they will be reporting back to the coalition, and then we can give an update here every so often. I'm not sure how many times they will have to meet, but we'll be sure to keep you posted.
Awesome. Cool. What else?
I think this is probably the last thing that I want to mention today, because things are changing so quickly, but I did want to just touch on it. There have been a few times this session where some legislators have tried to hinder, halt, stop the Indigo bus rapid transit lines build out, specifically the blue line. And so while the actual bill died in the Senate because it did not get a hearing. If you guys remember, it had been assigned to Rules and Legislative Procedures, and it was never either heard or recommitted to the Transportation Committee. It died in, the first committee report deadline. What's happening right now is there have been some amendments on some very interesting bills. It first started in Ways and Means, and it has gone to the Education Committee, and they deal with sort of different things. The bill in the Ways and Means Committee would have dealt with dedicated lanes again. It specifically was trying to effectively eliminate the dedicated lanes in the Irvington area. But we were successful in getting advocates out, which we were so grateful that everyone showed up to talk about this. But the amendment essentially ended up being tabled. So the bill passed out of Ways and Means without that amendment in it, which was hopefully something that we had, it was our hope that that Irvington language would have been removed. And since the amendment did not move forward, that language never made it in anywhere. Well, then yesterday or earlier this week, there was an amendment in the Education Committee that would have prohibited school children from using Indigo bus rapid transit lines to get to and from school. So this was yet another attempt to halt progress or maybe derail the success of the Indigo bus rapid transit lines. And this amendment also was not called. We were there to testify, to try to talk about how this was just not a very good idea. This amendment comes after, in the Indianapolis public school systems operating a robust multi-year pilot program, giving high school students access to free bus passes for, public transportation. And so this would have been a terrible amendment that would have ruined a lot of that. And we were successful in not having that called down. But while all of these things are still adding up, that we're getting them to be, to not move forward, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, a lot of these bills will be on second reading, and there will be amendments probably out there. So I would just suggest, please keep an eye on them. We will keep you updated. But if there is anything that would deal with transit or the build out of any of the bus rapid transit lines, please make sure that you're contacting your legislators and letting them know that this is just not something that is needed, and we need to continue to build out our transit system the way that it has been discussed and planned.
Our friends that are against this transit expansion are relentless, for lack of a better word, in trying to find anywhere that they can to, as you said, halt progress, stop construction, or just inconvenience a whole host of folks just because they don't like transit. I don't know.
It has been a roller coaster. Yeah.
Most of the time, though, roller coasters are fun.
Yes.
This, not so much.
When you're never let off of it, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, roller coasters are supposed to be fun. You wait in long lines by which to ride them. This is not one we were asking to get on.
And just to be clear, I didn't give the actual bill. So it was House Bill 1251 that this amendment was going to go into in the Education Committee. That bill is something to watch next week, because there could be additional amendments added to that one, as well as any other bill, especially during conference committee. So if you are not following Transit Drives Indy, that is where you can get updates. We work very closely in that coalition with a lot of other partners, including my board, the Indy Chamber, etc. So please feel free to go to Transit Drives Indy and sign up for those alerts, and we will keep you posted so that you know what's going on.
Okay. Go do what Amber says. Okay.
We need you.
All right. Well, that's that's what's happening right now. We'll get more in depth as we get into the end of session and conference committees and all the fun shenanigans that come from that. Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we let folks go?
I don't think so. I mean, there are so many other things happening, but I'll think we can kind of keep this short and sweet and just come back again next week to try to give an update on where we are.
That's what we're here for. Let you know where we are and what's going on over there, because you don't have time to worry about some of this stuff. So we'll let you know. Uh,
Yes, and I feel as though there probably is another update needed on Senate Bill 352, which was the consumer loan bill. But I guess maybe my shout outs this week, that's what made me think of it. If we were going to do any
okay.
shout outs,
Yeah, we can do some shout outs now. Let's do it.
I just wanted to once again reiterate our thanks to Representative Miller for adding that position on the Housing Task Force, as well as Representative Carbaugh for working so hard on getting all of us at the table for Senate Bill 352, both support, oppose, and trying to find some common ground. While that bill, he did not end up hearing it because we had worked so hard to try to come to the table, and we still will. This interim will be working on that as well with the lenders to see if there's a product that we might be able to put together that would not create a cycle of debt. But we wanted to give a shout out to him too for all of the hours he has spent trying to help us work with the lenders, et cetera. So I just want to make sure we said that.
Yeah, that's a good shout out for those of you that recall. That's what that 352 is, the installment loan bill that was, as I referred to it as, is payday adjacent. Not necessarily, it wasn't a payday product, but it was in that kind of family of products. That bill is not moving forward, but the discussion will continue in the interim. I think I'll actually, like, for a shout out for me this week, I think I will. Some folks that you already mentioned is folks around when we're talking about that Indigo Transit amendment. There was a lot of folks that were from the Irvington neighborhood. There was a lot of folks that were from the school that was there, and just people from the Irvington neighborhood in Indianapolis really came out to make their voices heard and kind of show that of why it was important that those dedicated lanes still go through their, in their community, and why it was important. So I think that was it was a good showing from them, and really highlighted why it needed to keep on, why that shouldn't have been a part of any amendment. So I'll give a shout out to the Irvington crew that came out to let their voice be heard on this issue. So kudos to you on that.
And a really amazing familiar face, Brent. I don't know that he is a listener, but I did want to say that was a blast from the past, and it was so good to see him there, sort of supporting his community, etc. So
yep, yeah. It was a good turnout, and I think had a big impact. So I think that shows that that's still possible when citizens and such get involved. So kudos to them.
Sorry, Jason, just really fast. I did forget. I wanted to make sure that I also included, there was a meeting that Representative Carbaugh put together, and Senator Zay and Representative Judy were also in attendance. So I wanted to make sure that I said thank you for the time that they took out of their evening to attend that as well. So I didn't mean to leave them out of trying to come together and have this discussion when these conversations are hard. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned them.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, there's some good shout outs. Amber, is always good work. Producer Dan, as always, good work behind the scenes. Thank you so much. And to all of you that are listening, as a reminder, you can find this on AARP's Facebook page, our YouTube page. You can find it in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts, and always at aarp.org/legislative things. So like, subscribe, tell your friends, pass it along to whomever you might know, so you can learn more about what's going on at the Indiana General Assembly and what AARP Indiana is working on. Okay, well, until the next episode, Amber, hang in there.
Thanks, you too. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks to all of you. And until next time on The Legislative Director, talking about legislative things, we will see you then.